and welcome to today's Pilates session. So we're going to be doing a 45-minute workout, so to get our bodies toned and strengthened from the core and working on our posture. So we're going to take, if you're using a device, we're going to take your device for a Pilates program. We're going to have those feet nice and parallel. We're going to focus on working through a pain-free range of motion today. So feet nice and neutral, knees in line with the hips, rib cage over the pelvis. We're going to take a nice big deep breath in. We're going to glide our shoulders up towards our ears. We're going to keep that width across that body for me, keeping that length all the way through and keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. So we're going to do this just 4 more times, please. We're keeping that length all the way through, keeping that spine nice and tall. So we're going to make sure that you've got a nice, well-ventilated room. We're going to make sure that you need to, any time you need to have water or a drink at all, then also just make sure you grab it. Okay, so small sips of whether it be an energy drink or just plain water. We want to make sure that you keep that room nice and the temperature that is right for you. So you don't want to be too hot and you don't want to be too cold. Again, just working within the parameters of your space. So if you're in a small space, then obviously just be mindful of furniture, bits of exercise equipment if you're doing it in a small gym at home. And last one. Lovely. So we're going to take those arms to the back. We're going to take a nice big squeeze. So we keep that head and that neck nice and long. So let's make sure those feet are parallel. We're going to keep that width across that body and keep that gap between the chin and the chest. So we just want to get that nice big retraction into those shoulders, keeping that length through that body. We're going to keep those abdominals nice and connected and keeping that head and that neck nice and long. Keeping that space between the ears and the shoulders. Again, we keep that nice deep connection through those abdominals. I'm just going to join you again. Keeping that width across that body. Lovely. And we're going to do that 4 more times. And 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. So just do a quick recheck of our posture. Again, focusing on that connection through those abdominals. We're going to lengthen those fingers down towards the floor. I'm going to breathe out. We're going to reach those arms up in line with the shoulder and breathe out and draw it back down. So I'm going to keep that width across that body for me, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest, keeping that head and that neck nice and long. Keeping that space between the ears and the shoulders. And keeping that width across that body. Brilliant. Now we're going to add on to this, and I'm going to turn my back to you just so you can see what's going on with my shoulders. So we're going to take a nice big deep breath in. We're going to breathe out, reach the arms up. And then we're going to squeeze the shoulders back, reach it back to that centre point, and to bring the arms down. So we're going to breathe out, lift up nice and tall, retract those shoulders back, lengthen those arms, and draw it down. So we're going to reach it up and squeeze it back, lengthen those arms and down, and then come to the side. So again, keeping that body nice and long, nice big squeezing those shoulders back for me, keeping that length through that body and keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. So with that nice big retraction, really lengthening through that body. Again, making sure that we try and get an elongation from your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. Keeping that space between the chin and the chest for me. Keeping that length through that body. And we're going to do that for me just 3 more times. And 2. And 1. Brilliant. So I'm just going to join you back at the front again. Right, so now those feet parallel. We're going to take those arms out in front. We're going to do a nice big arm circle. So again, just have a quick glance around your room to make sure that as you're doing this exercise, you're not going to wrap your fingers around anything. So that could be furniture, walls, any ornaments or anything like that. And we want to keep that width across that body. So we keep that length through that body, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. keeping that space between the rib and the hips. And we want to keep that width across that body. And think about that space between the shoulders and the ears. And keeping that connection between the bottom of the rib cage and the top of the pelvis. So we don't want to overactivate those abdominals and tuck our bottoms under. And we don't want to have them too relaxed so we end up sticking our bottoms out. So we want to be in that nice midway point. Lovely. And we're going to do that just 2 more times. That's each direction. And last one. Brilliant. So we'll bring those arms down to the side. Again, do a quick check. So if your feet are being a little bit naughty, then they'll start to go outwards or inwards. So again, just have a little reset. Think about that pubic bone joint down, tailbone joint down. We're going to open up across those collarbones so they're nice and east, nice and west. We're going to lift up out of that hip joint and we get a nice stretch coming down to the side. And then we're going to draw it all the way back up. And then we're going to reach it down to the side and back up. So we're going to making sure that we're working through a painful range of motion. So again, we want to make sure that we're not going down too far and putting too much stress around the hip. Again, if you're particularly stiff at the moment, again, it's just working through that range that's right for you. So it may be a shorter range of motion. That's okay, doesn't matter. Our bodies react differently on a daily basis. So today I'm just going to do this level. Again, making sure that as you come over to the side that you don't lift up through that hip, keep that hip drawing down and all the way back up. Brilliant. And we're just going to do one more on either side for me. And up. Brilliant. So keeping those feet nice and parallel. We're going to do our foot pedal. So I want you to keep that upper body nice and open. So we're going to draw up onto the ball of the foot and we're going to press it down to start off with. So we're going to push it up and then down. So again, this is where you may find you're a little bit tight around the ankles and the Achilles tendon. Don't force it down. Again, we want to think about keeping that pelvis as still as we can. So again, we want that nice big connection across the midsection. We want to keep it so we're just getting that nice big engagement through that body, top to toe. Now we're going to start to add a bit of challenge in. So if you're doing the exercise on your mat, the mat's going to throw you off balance just a fraction. So we're going to start with the right heel up and then we're going to switch and then switch. So again, if you're tight around your ankles, again, don't force it. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. And just think about, okay, if you've twisted your ankle at any time like so, then obviously you may find that you're a bit more wobbly. So you may want to do this exercise on the floor. Because if you've got the exercise mat on a carpet, okay, again, it's going to make it double instability. Brilliant. And we're going to do 3, 2, and 1. Lovely. So we're going to do some squats with some mobilisation. So first we'll do a room check to make sure you're not going to bash yourselves on any bits of furniture. So feet are nice and parallel. We want to keep those shoulders nice and open for me. We're going to start with the squat action. If you struggle with dizziness or anything like so, then I want you to stick with this range of motion here. And then we're going to draw it all the way back up and lifting up nice and tall. So each time I want to come back to that bottom of the rib cage over the top of the pelvis. So if you suffer with dizziness, stick with this option. If not, we're going to drop that head down. We're going to raise up through our bottom We're going to tuck our bottom under and we're going to roll up. We're going to lift up nice and tall. So we're going to sink it down. We're going to drop that head down. We're going to roll it up. And relax. So keep that head nice and long, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Think about that space between the ears and the shoulders. Keeping that weight nice and equally transferred. Think about that space between the chin and the chest. Again, at all times, just working through that range of motion that is right for yourselves. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Think about that width across that body. Keeping that length through that body at all times. And keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. And we'll do it just one more time. Lovely. So, keeping those feet nice and parallel, we're going to get that focus on that rotation through the spine. So, we're going to keep the feet nice and parallel. I want you to reach those arms out in front. So I'm just going to do this to the side so you can see. So we're going to take a nice deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to get that rotation round, lengthen through the arm, and then we're going to come back to that centre point. We're going to rotate round, look towards that hand is, and bring it back to centre. And we're going to rotate round, open up across the chest, and bring it back to that centre point. I'm going to rotate round, and bring it back to centre. Nice long arms. And back to centre. So we want to keep those shoulders drawing down. We want to keep that head and that neck nice and long. We want to keep that width across that body. Keep that width across those shoulders. Keeping that length through that body all the way through, and keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. And we're going to do that just twice more. It's going to get that nice openness through that chest for me. And one more. those arms a good old shake. Right, we're going to start with our standing abduction. So we want to keep that rib cage over pelvis. If you need to hold onto a wall, hold onto a wall. If you find that your balance is not so good, then obviously just hold on to something. It's really important that you just don't spend the whole time wibbling and wobbling. So we want to engage through that core. We're going to take a big deep breath in, and we're going to take that leg out to the side. So it's not very high, and then we're going to draw it back down. And then we're going to take it out to the side and back up. So again, we're going to keep this nice and connected, keeping that width across that body, and keeping that head and that neck nice and long. Now, don't worry if you go a bit wobbly, that's perfectly okay. One side is always easier on your balance than the other side. So again, we're working on strengthening this leg. We're working on the abductors around the outside edge of the pelvis, keeping that length through that body. Keeping this nice and strong. And keeping that length all the way through. I'm going to do that for me 3 more times. 2 and 1. Brilliant. So give those legs a quick shake. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So remember, if you've turned your ankle at any time and you have weaker ankles on the ligaments, that's okay, because that just means you're going to have to work a little bit harder, and it will help to strengthen around those joints. So again, we're going to keep that width across that body, keeping those abdominals nice and connected. Again, don't go too fast. So again, breathing that, taking the leg out and in, keeping the shoulders nice and open. You can use your fingertips to just check that your abdominals are engaging. A bit of a wobble there. And last repetition. Brilliant, give those legs a good old shake. Right, what we're going to do now is we're going to do a lunge with rotation. So again, we're going to get that focus on core, using the Pilates principles to get ourselves into the position. So first of all, you want to take a step forward. So nice long legs. If you find that your socks are a little bit slippery, okay, then obviously just stop and remove your socks. So we're going to take a nice deep breath in. We're going to breathe out. We're going to lunge it down to 90 degrees. We're going to have our hands into a prayer position. We're going to breathe out. We're going to rotate round. We're going to breathe out. We're going to come back to centre, and then we're going to come up. So we're going to take a nice deep breath in. We're going to breathe out. Breathe in here. Breathe out. We're going to rotate. Breathe out back to centre. Breathe out and lift up nice and tall. So we're going to breathe it out. Keep everything nice and engaged. Keeping that width across that body. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. And keeping that head and that neck nice and long. So we're going to keep it nice and smooth, nice and under control, keeping that length through that body. That's it, great. Keeping that movement nice and smooth, nice and under control. And one more. Just do a quick readjustment if it was sliding a little bit. down and around. Brilliant. Now, step in, give those arms and those legs a good shake. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side, so we can get that balance first of all. We're going to bring those hands together. Open up through those shoulders. So we're going to take it down. We're going to rotate round, back to centre and up. So we're going to take it down, get that nice big rotation. Keeping that width across that body. Keeping that head and that neck nice and long. One side's usually a little bit easier than the other. Keeping those shoulders nice and wide. And last repetition. Step in, give those legs a good old shake. So we're going to focus now on strengthening through that lower back into our back line of the body. So those glutes, those hamstrings. So feet nice and parallel, knees are gently soften, we bring the arms down to the side. I want you to make sure you do a room check to make sure you don't bump your head on anything. So we're going to take a nice big deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to slide that leg, so not the legs, we're going to slide our backs down, keeping that nice neutral position. So we want to keep this upper body here nice and open, keeping a nice flat back. Keeping those eyes in between your toes, and then we're going to lift up nice and tall for me. And we keep that width across that body. I'm going to slide it down. Again, keeping that nice hinge position. So really important to find that position through hinging. And we're going to breathe out. We're going to lift up nice and tall. So we want to get that nice big focus here. Each time we're going to lift up out of that pelvis. We keep that space between the rib and the hips, keeping that body nice and long and lengthened. And we keep that gap between the chin and the chest. We want to get that really focused on elongating through that spine. So again, really keeping that nice big deep connection. If your hamstrings are super tight, then just bend the knees a little bit more. Yeah. So therefore you're keeping that pressure out of those hamstrings. So again, if you need to have those knees a little bit bent further, that's absolutely fine. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. Again, thinking about the position of the feet, keeping that space between the rib and the hips. Keeping that length through that body. Keeping that gap here at all times. And we're going to do that just 2 more times. Keeping that body nice and long and nice and lengthened. And just 1 more. Brilliant. So we're going to come down to the floor. So if you have some blocks and some bands, that'd be amazing. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. So coming down to the floor, it's a nice and comfortable position for you to get down in. I'm first going to start off with a nice cat stretch. So we're going to have our fingertips to the end of your mat. We want to make sure those knees are in line with the hips, keeping that head and neck nice and long, again making sure you're not going to bash into anything. So we're going to take a nice deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to tuck that head under, tuck that pelvis under. Do watch out for any necklaces. And then we're going to roll it back through. Now you can come to that nice neutral position, or you can take it past neutral. Again, it's whatever is most comfortable for your spine and how your spines feel today. So we're going to tuck that head under. And keep that width across that body. So you want to stand into those armpits. Keeping that width across that body. And keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. And keeping that space between the ears and the shoulders. And we're going to do that 2 more times. And once more. Brilliant. We're going to sink it back and get a nice quick stretch into that back. Stretch into those shoulders and just press those hands into the floor. Brilliant. So the next exercise we're going to do is we're going to do our tricep push-ups for the backs of those arms, and then we're going to do it into a stretch in between each repetition. So fingertips are to the end of your mat. We're going to drop that weight forwards, okay? So that nice diagonal position from your shoulder, hip to your knee. We're going to keep those abdominals nice and engaged. So we're going to take a nice deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to bring the arms down and break at the elbows. And then we're going to draw it all the way up. And then we're going to sink it all the way back. We keep that width across that body. We keep those abdominals nice and engaged. Again, working through the range of motion that is right for your body. So don't worry if you can't come all the way down. Just work through the range of motion that is pain-free and keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. So again, working through the triceps is good for the backs of the arms, but also stabilising through those shoulders. Again, the serratus anterior firing up. So it helps keep those shoulders nice and engaged. Keeping that length through that body. Keeping that space between the chin and the chest. And last one. So we're coming up to a kneeling position. Alright, so we're going to move on into our all fours with our opposite arm, opposite leg, and with our cat paw. So again, lots of stability and strengthening around those shoulders. So we'll do our cat pause first of all. So we're going to have two positions. So you've got all fours like so. We're going to take a nice deep breath in, and we're going to breathe out. We're going to draw the arm up and place it down. So that is option 1. Option 2, we walk our knees back into that 3/4 press up position like so. And we'll draw through that cat paw and place it down. Again, engaging through those abdominals, giving that gap between the chin and the chest. Think about that width across that body. Giving that space between the ears and the shoulders. And one more on each side. And we're going to sink it back for me, get that nice big stretch. And then before we do the next exercise, we're going to make sure that we have plenty of space. So we're not going to wrap our fingers or our toes around anything. That's really important. So nice all fours position. And we're going to lengthen through that body, keep that body nice and long and lengthened. And then we'll draw it all the way through. So keeping that gap between the chin and the chest, nice and long. And all the way back through. So we want to keep that pelvis nice and level. And we'll do one more on each side. Brilliant. And we'll put these knees down, quick stretch. So we're going to grab hold of our band. I want to double that band over, and we're going to be lying on our backs. So again, if you want to pop a cushion underneath your head, by all means go ahead. And we're into that nice neutral position. So we're going to take the band all the way over. We're going to keep that width across that body. We're going to take a nice big deep breath in. As we breathe out, we're going to curl it up. I want to have that band just resting onto our thighs. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. And then we're going to roll it all the way back through and down. And we'll do that one more time. Now this time what we're going to do is we're going to still keep the band, but we're going to reach over to the side. So take a nice deep breath in, and we're going to breathe out. We're going to reach over. So you want the hand to tap your opposite hand to opposite knee, and then back through. So it's just one hand, and then we're going to reach over, through, and back. So we keep that width across that body, keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. That head and that neck nice and long, so really keep that nice big reach over. Keeping that gap between the chin and the chest. And we've got one more on each side. Brilliant. So I'm going to put that band onto the floor. And we're going to finish off with a nice big shoulder bridge position. So feet nice and parallel. We're going to have those arms resting on the floor. We're going to roll up through those hips. We're going to lift those hips up to the sky, opening up through that hip joint, keeping that space between the chin and the chest. And then we're going to roll it all the way down. Then back into that nice neutral position. Roll up through those hips, lift up through those glutes, lengthen through that hip joint for me. And I'm going to roll it back down. And back to that nice neutral position. Nice big activation through those glutes. Lift up through that hip joint. Keep that rib cage over that pelvis. Keep that length through that body. Keeping those shoulders nice and open. Be careful not to over lift up. So always remember the ribs over pelvis position. And then we'll roll it down. And we've got 2 more times. And one more. Peeling that spine all the way down each time. And give those knees a quick cuddle. And then we're going to roll ourselves up. Right, first we're going to start with those inside thighs. So we're going to grab the soles of our feet together. Draw the heels in, keep that width across that body for me. Keep those shoulders nice and open. Again, don't force the knees down, just let them drop down. And then we'll take one leg out in front. We're going to take that leg over the top. So if you can't get beyond this position, that's okay. If you can, bring that heel around and sit up nice and tall for me. That's it, lovely. Again, just getting that nice big stretch around the outside of the thigh. And then we'll switch it over. So again, just do the stretch that is right for your body for today. Keeping that width across that body for me, keeping that head and that neck nice and long. Great. And then we're going to come up onto our knees. We're going to stretch out to those hip flexors. So we're going to take that leg out in front. We're going to drop that weight forward. So you want to get that nice big stretch here. And then at the same time, you want to lift up out of that hip joint. So continue that stretch down through those quads. And then we're going to swing that leg around. Take that leg out in front. Drop that weight forward. Again, lift right back out of that hip joint. Open up through those hips. Lovely. Then we're just going to bring that foot back, come up to a standing position. Right, we're going to interlock those hands for me. We're going to round through that upper back and get that nice big stretch across the back of the shoulders. And then we're going to bring those hands behind. We're going to interlock those hands, draw the shoulders back. Then we're going to reach those arms up and get that nice big stretch into our chest. Really good to stretch out that chest. And then we'll take that arm across the body for me, keeping that shoulder drawing down, keeping that width across the body. And then the other side. Brilliant. And then we'll reach the arm all the way up to the ceiling, get that nice big stretch into those triceps. And then the other side. Brilliant. Now we're going to bring that ankle up to the bottom. If you need to hold on to something, please do. Clearly I need to do that today. And then we're going to switch those legs over. Lovely. And then we're going to take a nice big stretch into those calves. We take one foot in front, one foot behind. We're going to drop that weight forward, get that nice big stretch into the back of the calf. And then the other side. Lovely. Then we're going to finish off with our hamstrings. So we're going to take a step back, drop that weight down, get that nice big stretch into those calves and hamstrings. So foot nice and flat for the hamstring. Add in the foot joint up to the ceiling to get those calf muscles in. And then we're going to switch it over. So leg out nice and straight. Sink it back. Nice big stretch. Then we're going to draw it up. Brilliant. And then we have those feet nice and parallel. We're going to take it all the way down, reach it all the way up, nice big stretch, and all the way down and up. And that is you done for today's session. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. I look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.